Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with John Fan TV, man. Back action of the video. Like the content of this video, go smash that like button. Like the content of this channel, go ahead and subscribe, man. Look, so Ravens got better today. Made a signing that we all thought was coming, especially after the news of losing to Jadeveon Clowney last week, right? So the Ravens have officially brought back Kyle Van Noy on a 2-year deal. I think they said it's worth up to $9 million. It was announced on the Pat McAfee show, right? Kyle Van Noy has kind of been a guest on Pat McAfee show back and forth, so I'm not surprised that Pat McAfee was able to break this news. He seems to be him and Kyle Van Noy seems to have striked up some kind of relationship, right? So I'm not surprised by that at all. So, but let's talk about the Ravens side of it, okay? So for the Ravens, this was a move that desperately needed to happen. Now they go into the draft where now they can still draft the edge rusher at some point in the draft, but it's not a glaring whole big need, right? It's something that you need to add to the room, of course, get better in the room, but bringing Kyle Van Noy back became number one priority as soon as Jadeveon Clowney went and signed with the Panthers, okay? So for the Ravens, this is a good move. It makes a lot of sense, and the money's not bad at all either, right? So $9 million, some incentives on the end that he can earn up to, I think about, they said about $1 million more each year. So maybe that's like 11 million in total, obviously something around that number. So for a player that signed early on last season and hit the ground running immediately for the Ravens, okay. So with the current roster construction and the way things go, and if they stay the same, Kyle Van Noy is going to have a bigger role this year than he did last year. Okay, so I don't mind that per se, just because of the way he played. He deserves that, right? So I think that when you went into this offseason, right, as a Ravens fan, as somebody who's looking at the team, right, and all the free agents and all the guys that they had that was going to potentially leave the team, right, when it came to edge rusher between Clowney and Van Noy, you knew the Ravens were only going to bring one of them back, right? And I was on record saying that my top choice would be Clowney, just because I think he's a little bit bigger, can hold the edge a little bit more. But Kyle Van Noy is a lot more than a consolation prize, right? When he came into the game last year, he made a lot of plays, he played well. Then also veteran leadership, right? He seems to be a guy that a lot of the younger guys respect. He comes from a winning pedigree, being on the Patriots, things like that, right? So he knows what it looks like. And every time I heard him speak about the team, it seemed like this is where he wanted to be, right? If the money was right, of course, you gotta get that right when when millions of dollars are at stake, right? Gotta get that right. But if that was right, and if him and Eric Costa could strike a deal, it seemed like all along he wanted to be in Baltimore, right? So I'm happy that the Ravens were able to bring him back, and that's something that the Ravens can cross off the list, I would say, for a first round, second round, right? Now, listen, obviously Kyle Van Noy is an older player, so I'm not saying like, oh yeah, he's the future of the team, but if you're the Ravens, you have to feel as though you got to put faith in Ojabo to come back. Owe was good last year, right? Now the sack numbers didn't show that, but the pressure numbers were there, things like that. If he can get the quarterback to the ground, you're really going to see what kind of player Odafe Owe is, right? So you're filling out the edge room, right? The Ravens do this every year, especially seems to be with edge, particularly with Eric DeCosta, that he'll string this out all the way up to training camp, all the way up to the first couple weeks of the season, right? So we'll see where they go from here, but I think that the Ravens losing Van Noy and Clowney in the same offseason, given how those guys played last year, probably would have been too much to replace. So I'm happy that they were able to bring at least one of those guys back and bring back Kyle Van Noy. This is a good move for the Ravens. It's a good move for, wanting to be a good team next season, right? So to me, it now allows the Ravens to completely shift their focus. It was probably already there, right? But this move even makes it even more clear to me. Offensive tackle in the first round, or just a versatile offensive lineman, right? There are some guys at the end of the first round that could play, all 5 spots. The Ravens already solidified at center, but if they have a versatile guy who can play guard and tackle, give them some more flexibility, or just a straight up right tackle that can be a stalwart at that position for the next, 10 years, hopefully, right? Somebody like that, okay? They can shift their focus. They're focusing on that, and they'll go from there, right? So for me, the Ravens, this was a move that quite honestly had to happen. When you look at the other names in free agency, I can't say those guys were better than what Kyle Van Noy did for the Ravens last year, already knowing the system, already being here, and already having a great rapport with everybody on the team, right? When you have guys like, Bud Dupree and, different pass rushers like that, Yannick Ngakoue out there, I think bringing back Van Noy make a lot of sense, right? So he's 33 years old right now. He played well, right? He's showing that his whole goal. Listen to Kyle Van Noy talk all last year was to show that, hey, his age is nothing that's going to stop him from continuing to be a productive player, right? So hopefully that wasn't just a one season thing. We get to continue to see that right now. There have been, I'm not gonna say it, trade rumors is probably putting it too much emphasis on it. But there has been talks of maybe Judon in a trade. Matthew Judon from the Patriots, ex-Raven, maybe potentially coming back here, right? He liked the tweet mentioning it. I saw that it's been a popular Ravens trade potential candidate on a couple different sites, Bleacher Report, CBS Sports, right? So the Ravens still have some work to do in the outside linebacker room, right? Bringing a guy like Judon in would be great. It honestly makes sense given age, contract, things like that. It makes sense for what the Ravens would typically do, right? Even though he was on the team before, right? So yeah, but just sticking with Kyle Van Noy, it's a good start to the room. It's a move where the Ravens can now focus on some other areas that are that are bigger needs, right? Offensive tackle, wide receiver in second round, maybe something like that. So for me, I am a major fan of Kyle Van Noy coming back to the Ravens. It's a move that needed to happen. I'm glad that it did happen. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on the videos, man. Give me your thoughts on the Kyle Van Noy signing. And, where do you see the Ravens going next with their next signing? All right, so I'm going to get out of here, man. But it's Gabriel, Fan TV. I'm out.